No, there's a chance that I might put my foot on your chair. All right, we're gonna get started. I think it's time to get started. Somebody else comes in. I got a few more of these. I know the last couple of classes you guys have been really inundated with contracts, and today we get to have more fun with contracts. So before we get started, I'm Jason. I'm one of the brokers here. I've been doing real estate for, 12 years, and then been on the broker side here for year and a half. Let's see, I was the second agent in Everest. There was 6 of us in the room when it started, and now I think the company in Utah is up to 500, and total I think we're over 1,100. So we've grown. So that's me. Title. You want to zoom in real quick?
Hi everyone, I'm Kenzie. I'm from Vanguard Title, and we're just up on the 4th floor. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about some common mistakes that agents do in their business. And whether you like him or not, we have to admit that President Trump has been very successful at real estate. And a motto that he's started to live by is that you must always plan for the downside to take care of the upside, and the upside will take care of itself. In other words, plan for the worst, and that way you'll only succeed. So we wanted to share with you today some tips or some common mistakes that agents do so you can prepare and not make the same mistakes. And I'm wondering, what do you think is the most common mistake according to Realtor Magazine that an agent does? Anyone?
Not calling back people back.
Not calling people back? What do you think, Megan? I don't know. Well, the most common mistake is actually not having a business plan. Surprising, right? And that's something definitely Century 21 preaches, and the brokers will sit down with you and help you create that. Why do you think that would be such a big mistake for your business, Doug? Do you have a business plan?
Of course.
Ask him if it's written.
It is actually.
That was my next point.
It is. If you don't have a plan, you don't really know what you want to accomplish. It'll be easier for you to get off task. So if you write down your business plan, you know what you should be doing every day. You have your goals and what you need to do what you want.
Okay. Yeah, and consistently, when agents write down their plans, they're more successful agents. It's just a fact. And then the second common mistake would be not using the resources available to you. So some people just shout out some resources that you have here at Century 21. That's true. But what else do you have here at Century 21? CE classes. Good. CE classes. Peak training. Morning Ascents. The Summit. Tons and tons and tons here. And then we have your outside sources like Title. And we can do a lot of really helpful things for you, like full property information, address lists, so that you don't have to spend your valuable time doing that yourself. So that's a great way to manage your business. Which brings us to our third mistake, which would be not maximizing productivity. Has anyone created a specific schedule that they've seen really help increase their business? Evan Child isn't in here, but he has that awesome. Did he tell you about that?
Spreadsheets up.
Yeah. So there's one agent who's created this spreadsheet, and he, I guess, logs.
Yeah, logs everything he does.
So he can.
Can't improve unless you know where you're at.
So he can statistically see how much time he spends on every single activity he does, and he tries to do 80% of what he's planned. Right? Yeah, so he tries to accomplish 80% of what he's planned to do, which is pretty impressive. And then our last common mistake would be not earning designations. And that is talking about education. So not investing in things that will help you be a better and more informed agent. I have a funny story about this. My dad is George Morris, but he one time, when they were building up the company and it was really hard financially, he wanted to continue going to all the Mike Ferry events or Tony Robbins or just all those great things. And my mom said to him, you know, look, we can't afford to do this right now. And he goes, we can't afford not to. And so one common mistake is that agents think that they can't afford something, but really they can, because once you learn that, it'll help you make more money and it'll help you be more successful. Yeah, so that's about it. Again, my name's Kenzie and I'm from Vanguard, so if you have any questions, just come talk to me after. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Did Citywide, did you guys want to say something?
Yes.
Come on up.
Good morning. I'm Logan Stately. I'm one of the newer loan officers here with Citywide Next Door. Newer, not in the business, that is. Been in the real estate industry for over 30 years. Started off building houses, got a real estate license way back when I was 12 years old, it seemed like. And was an appraiser for a lot of years. In fact, I was a chief appraiser for it's now Chase Bank. Did lots of appraisals throughout the Southwest. And then for the last 22 years, I've been a mortgage lender, which I've loved. I've enjoyed that. Being an appraiser is kind of a lonely life. It's kind of a boring life. I found that doesn't have a lot of interaction. In fact, you know how an appraiser's wife goes to sleep at night that suffers from insomnia? She asks her husband, tell me about your day. So I didn't enjoy that life of it, but this is much more fun and exciting. I enjoy it very much. So I'm glad to be here. But I was here at your training meeting a couple of days ago when Rob was going through the REPC with you. I think most of you guys were here for it as well. There are a few pieces on that front page that you can do. It's legal, it's binding, it's great, but in terms of getting your loan closed, it may cause you some problems. I want to review with you just briefly a few of those key items that we come across. They'll help you avoid having to go back and ask for addendums or those gotchas that can slow you up when you get right towards the end of closing and then you find out that you're going to be delayed for a couple of days all because of some issue that could have been prevented up front. Now we as loan officers will help prevent that up front as well. Number one, names on the purchase contract. Make sure, try to get the names spelled correctly and as it should be. Bill Smith is not necessarily the same as William E. Smith Jr. How are they going to be on title? Find that out. Talk to them. Say, this is how you're going to be signing your purchase contract and your title is going to be vested this way. The insurance is going to be this way. The appraiser is going to put that way. Everything you put on that purchase contract is going to trickle down throughout the whole transaction. There's a lot of documents that have their names on it, so try to get the names on there accurately. Also, remember this, for the most part, the loans that we do, it can't be in a company name. It needs to be in a real person with a heart, not an LLC or an S corporation for the financing that we do. Okay, so for financing purposes, make sure it's individual names. After closing, you can switch it into a corporation or a trust or an LLC. Same thing is true about the seller. So often it's, we'll see to be determined or owner of record. Will that work? Probably, I don't know. Does it work legally?
On the contract?
Yes. If they put on the page one at the very top, to be determined or owner of record, and then later on they sign it, I suppose it would work. For our purposes though, we need to know who the seller is in that purchase contract. So take the time, hopefully, to begin with, to find out what the name is of the owner. The name doesn't mean Bob Smith if it's recorded as Robert Smith. Try to get how it's recorded. Or if it's in Edna's and Charles Smith's family trust. Put that down as the seller. Later on, we'll also need to get documentation that whoever owns it, however it's vested, and the title company will need this as well. Another one usually takes care of that and gets information to us, but they'll have to get something that shows that the person signing the contract has authority to sign on behalf of that LLC or the trust, or that William E. Smith is the same thing as Bill Smith, or marriages, changing of last names. Try to get those things taken care of towards the beginning. I know when you're in the heat of negotiations, sometimes you maybe don't have the ability to get that information on a weekend. Just know that it's going to need to be corrected at some point in time. Any questions about that? Earnest money deposit. I mentioned it briefly when we were here. Cash is not our friend. You'd think it would be, but Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, all federal government agencies tell you that you can't use federal cash for us to verify. Don't ask me why. So it needs to be something we can track. A couple of weeks ago, we had an agent that took pictures of $100 bills laid out on a desk and said, here's proof, this is their cash. And there's a lot of segments in our society that deal in cash. When I was young and we had a budget, I dealt in cash. I had envelopes for that I was trained to have my budget. We had cash for grocery, cash for dates, so forth. I had cash for earnest money deposit. We can't do that. It has to be sourced and seasoned through a third party, which basically means a bank statement. So, no cash down payments, no cash earnest money deposit. If they bring cash to you, you guys probably turn it away anyway, I assume. Tell them to go back. And now if they have cash and you want to take and convert that to a cashier's check, that's one part of the issue. We have to verify from the third party. So you walk into a bank, give them cash, they give you a cashier's check. What record do we know that it came from Bob Smith? We need a bank statement. Well, it never went into his account, come back out. So we have to have the money sourced and seasoned where it goes into his account to a cashier's check and back out to us. If it goes into the account, it has to be from an allowable source. I'm not going to take and try to answer all the questions here. In fact, my goal really is to kind of create questions so I can tell you that my office is right next to the drink fountain. You guys all know where the drink fountain is. If you don't know where the drink fountain is, talk to the person next to you. Free drinks, come over. My office is right there. Ask me questions. But in any case, in terms of cash, there's lots of things about that. If it goes from their bank account to us, we look at their bank statement. If there's an NSF, an overdraft protection, it can't be used. There are allowable sources for gifts for the down payment. So in short, if there's ever a question about the source, the money should be in their bank account for a couple of months. It come from their paycheck. It can come from a gift from a blood relative, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. It can come as a bonus from their employer. It can come from a charitable organization like their church. The sources of those, we'll get that into detail later on, but the important thing is that the money that goes into their account, we verify where it comes from so that it is their money and they can use that money for their earnest money deposit. Okay? Any question about that? Yes?
So I have one that the parents are gifting it and
Okay.
it closes within 30 days.
Okay.
Do they want to transfer the money now or wait till they close? 'Cause we're
That's an excellent question. The answer to that is you want to do it one of two ways, now or straight to the title company. I prefer now because we have to verify mom and dad had the money and that it went to the kid. And if you wait to the last second and the money goes from mom and dad's, then we may hold up funding for a day or two for us to go back to mom and dad and say, we need you to give your bank statement now to prove that it came from you. You can't just write a letter and then show up with a cashier check. We need to know it came from them. So to answer your question, our preference is do it up front, give us the documentation, let us get that signed off so it's not a condition, so that that's not something we have to worry about. But I know that sometimes mom and dad are selling stock or they're pulling money out of their 401k. It's not going to arrive for a while. As soon as you can is the answer. Yes?
Why does it need to be seasoned and sourced?
Good question. You're not allowed to borrow your down payment. So somebody has a $2,000 credit card, they can go in and pull up $500 in cash, give it to you for the earnest money deposit, and that won't show on their credit report for another month. Well, they got a debt. We pulled a credit report, but it doesn't show. So now they have a debt that's undisclosed. So in short, you can't borrow the down payment either. So we need to know where it came from. And there's sources where it needs to be. We can answer that question. Anything else? Last thing I'll mention real quickly, personal property. You click that button and it downloads everything from the MLS into the purchase contract, all the things about swing sets and ping pong tables and pool tables and hot tubs and da-da-da-da-da-da. All those things are great and can be inducements to purchase, but if we're taking and putting the lien against the property and they're putting $2,000 down and included in that purchase price is $20,000 worth of furniture, when we go to foreclose on that 2 years from now, is that furniture going to be there? It's not going to be there. But yet we made a loan based on that whole, everything included in that purchase price. So in short, be careful about personal property. If there are items that don't have a lot of value, make a comment in the purchase contract that says something along the lines of, quote, buyer and seller both agree No value is being given to the hot tub. It is being left as a convenience for moving for the seller, period. Items such as a piano, a refrigerator, a ping pong table, a foosball table, hot tub. If it's personal property, you've got to say that it has no contributing value and it's being left as a convenience. It has no value. You must say that. Now, you can't state the obvious. The BMW in the garage has no value. Can you legally do that? Sure. But the lender put that in there as being included in the purchase contract as personal property. We can't lend on that, and we'll take and subtract that. So if the purchase price is $300,000, we'll look up the Kelley Blue Book values and know the purchase price from our standpoint is $270,000, and they have to come up with $30,000 in cash plus their down payment. So long story short, minimal items, swing sets, things that don't have a lot of value, if they include it in the purchase contract, state specifically has no value and that it's being left as a convenience for the seller to move. Any questions? Great, thank you. Appreciate it. We're excited to serve with you guys. And if you have any questions, we're just right next door. Again, right next to the soft drink. I'll buy you a drink. It's free. That's the kind of guy I am.
He's a big spender. Is there anybody else that needed to make a comment? Or that was here? Okay, good. All right, so we're moving on. Today we're going to talk about the buyer packet and what's included in that, what do we need from it. It's just another tool that we have to do our job at a high level, okay? Every tool has a purpose. If it's not being used for its intended purpose, it usually doesn't work very well. You can't use a screwdriver to drive in a nail very far. You might be able to hit it a few times, but it's not going to work for the way it is. This is what that is. This is a tool that will protect you as a real estate agent. So as we go through this, if you have questions, bring them up. If you have concerns about why things are done a certain way, you can bring them up. I might not have the answer to that because I'm not the attorney who wrote this. I just know that it's something that we use on a daily basis.
Do you have any more of those? Can we get
Uh,
one too?
Yeah, so can I get somebody to go make copies? Lindsay, can you make copies? How many more do we
I
need?
have one already.
You want to give that to them? How many more do we need? 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe make six more. Okay, so we're going to go through this. You'll see in the packet there's quite a few pages. We're going to probably spend most of our time on the first section, the buyer-broker agreement, exclusive buyer-broker agreement, and then we'll kind of run through the other ones a little bit quicker because they have specific purposes and they're pretty easy to explain as we go through them. But the first one really defines our role as a real estate agent. So just so I understand the demographics of what we've got, how many are in the business 6 months or less? Okay, year or less? Anybody more than a year? Okay, perfect. So no dumb questions, unless I say they're dumb. Just kidding. Ask lots of questions. We want to make sure that we understand this. The more you understand this, the better you understand it, really. The easier it is to explain to your clients. This is one document that gets a lot of pushback when we go into explaining it without confidence. This is a legal binding contract that you're having your client sign. If you don't explain it well, you're going to get pushback from it. If you get pushback from it, they decide not to sell, you can make one of two choices. Don't have them sign it, or have them sign it. If we don't have them sign it, do we have a problem? What's the problem we run into?
They can go and write it off with anyone.
They can write an offer with anyone. What other problem does that create if we don't have it signed? We definitely don't want to write another offer, but
We would get paid for what we're doing.
that's a big one. If you decide to close the transaction, you don't have that, you won't get paid. There's another one. What's another problem it creates? Yeah, that's the one I'm looking for. It's the law. Okay, we are required to establish relationship, an agency relationship. This is what that document is. So if we're out deciding that we're going to just show a lot of homes and we're implying that we are their agent, but we don't have something signed, that creates a legal problem for us. Okay? And we'll talk about some things as we are showing buyers. And I'll give you some examples and scenarios where an agent says something during the transaction that makes them liable for it. We're trying to protect you. This protects you only so far. If you decide to go further than this and beyond your scope of professionalism, you can get in trouble. And this is one of those documents we got to really be careful with, okay? So let's just jump into it. First page, the very start. This is very similar to on the seller side. I know you guys talked about the seller, then you talked about the Rep C. Did we do any other contracts? Or is this just the third day of contracts? Third fun day of contracts? Okay, so in this section right here, this is what's going to establish who this contract is for. So the buyer's name. This is very important that you get the buyer's name correct here. This is what Logan
Jordan, St. George.
St. George, lender, mentioned. Sorry about that. But thank you. Everyone has one, right? Oh. Thanks. If you can get this as the same as it's going to be on the Rep C and then the loan, it's just a quick phone call or even a conversation with them that how do you want to take title to the property? This is one where we see a lot of the shortened names. Bill instead of William or Richard or whatever. You're seeing the shortened names. This is where if they can, you need to make sure that's their name. Okay, let me ask you a question. If in the process you have one buyer and they put their one buyer there and then the lender calls you up and says, we need to put the wife on the property. So you do an addendum on the Rep C that puts them on the contract. Does she need to be on this too?
Yes.
Okay. When does she need to be on this? Before closing? Before she's on the contract. You got to establish agency before they put her on the contract. Okay. We forget about this document because once we have it signed, typically real estate agents feel like, oh, finally, whew, I got it signed. We put it in dot loop, we send it over, and we stop looking at it. Okay. We need to make sure that we always have that established. If we switch buyers off, we've seen this before in the brokerage, where you have it with, like let's say you have it with the wife, and then the lender says, well, we're going to take her off of there and we're going to have the husband on there. And they don't update this until then. You actually never established a relationship with that person. Does that make sense? Okay, so make sure it's the right one. Okay, let's look at item number 1. Some of these we'll read the full thing, but I don't think we need to read every single one of them because they're. This one's going to talk about the term of the agreement. How long should a buyer's agency agreement be good for? What do you think you should use?
6 months.
6 months? Okay. Why 6 months? Because somebody else did 6 months?
Would it depend on the house and the market and stuff like that? If it's a huge mansion, you want a little more time.
Yeah, I like that idea. Why?
It depends on how soon they want to buy.
Their time frames?
Yeah.
I like that.
How long do you want to work with them?
Exactly. Okay. One thing we forget is that this is a two-way contract. Okay, this is binding them to us and us to them. You can actually be sued for negligence in fulfilling your duties as a real estate agent. So think about that. If this is something you want to go on for years and years and years, so you can keep somebody hostage, which I've seen, by the way. We've seen agents that are sticking to this, but they're not doing anything. That's grounds for them to be able to get out of the contract too. Okay, so just be cautious with that. 6 months, great policy. However, what if you are going into the winter? What if you're going into a slow time in the market where they're going to be traveling, they're going to be doing something else, and you want to make sure you have that established earlier?
9 months or a year.
9 months or a year. Yeah. There's no set time that you need to have on this. On a listing, company policy is 6 months. We want to make sure that you're going at least 6 months. But even that one, I would say, look when it's going to expire. I had a contract that I was working with, and I went under contract had it signed in October, and it was ending in March, which is 6 months. Okay? We were listing the property through the winter. Nothing was moving. The whole neighborhood, nothing was moving. 2 weeks before, it started getting into spring, and we started seeing a lot of movement in this neighborhood. There was lots of buyers coming in. No home in that whole entire neighborhood. It was up in Pepperwood, up in Sandy. Nothing sold from October to the end of March. My contract ended, and within 2 weeks, 10 properties sold in that neighborhood in 2 weeks. And the sad part is I knew that was what was happening, and I was telling the seller, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, it's going to sell. Give me 2 more weeks, give me 2 more weeks. And they said, we're giving you 6 months. We're going to give somebody else a try. Well, here's what happened. Mine expired, new agent came in, he had it on the market for 2 days, listed, under contract, sold within 30, and it was, $20,000 commission. That was a learning experience for me that I had. A big, expensive learning experience that I had. So you want to look at these contracts and you say, okay, yes, we want to start them today, but when do we want to end them? What are we ending on? Is it going to be beneficial for everybody? In that case, if I would have just taken a 7-month listing or an 8-month listing, thinking, yeah, I'll go into the spring, that would have made me $20,000.
So you think the season, the time of year actually affected the
It can. It depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at $1 million buyer and there's 5 on the market, it might take you a year, it might take you less. When we'll read through this, and it can say, so right here it says, as authorized agent for the company, starting effective date listed above and ending at 5 p.m. Mountain Time on, and then you write the date in there, or the close of an acquisition of a property. So as soon as it closes, your agency's over. So you want to just keep that in mind. Any questions on those? Okay, we're going to jump down the line to A and B. So A is in blank county, Utah, or B is located at, and then a blank line. Can you put multiple counties in that line?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay, so if you're going to put Salt Lake County and then your buyer decides that they're going to start looking in Utah County, you've got to establish that you represent them in that county. Does that make sense?
You put all?
All counties? You
Yeah,
mean write the word all counties?
Yeah. Just because you don't know whether they're going to change their mind or not.
So my suggestion to that would be more specific. You need to be more specific with what your client is, so you're not just opening it up.
Okay.
But if you're looking in the state of Utah for houses, then I would go back to your needs analysis class and figure out where they are, because that's a lot of driving. So yeah, I've seen it. I usually put, if I know we're kind of on the border, like Utah County, Salt Lake County, they're looking down in the Draper area, because you can be Draper, Utah County, Draper there. You want to make sure that you at least cover those. If not, you just do an addendum to it and say, we'll add you to Davis County, Weber County, wherever you decide to look. But you can put multiple counties in there. Property address. If we put just a property address, does that establish agency for all the homes? Just for the one home. When would that be useful?
I've had buyers where they only want every home I show them. They're just like, oh, if you show me this home, I'll buy from you. And so it's like they won't sign a buyer broker for all homes, but so it's like every home we go to, I have to sign a buyer broker for like the exact home.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Has anybody ever had a client that just really doesn't want to sign this? Okay, that's how you can get around it. I can show you this property, but we need to establish agency for this property. Okay, why?
Would you do it if it was like cash?
Cash transaction?
When they specifically knew, I want to buy that, have cash for it. Would that be a scenario where you would specifically put down the address?
Yeah, if you already have a property established, you can do that. I only do it if they're refusing to sign their agreement for longer. Because I've seen it where a cash buyer will come in, the property will have an inspection problem, then they'll want to find something else, or they'll keep looking and they'll find something else. So I like to establish the relationship. I like to establish the longer relationship. But if they push back on it, it's not something I'm going to leave the deal. I've talked to an agent before that, well, he refused to sign the buyer broker agreement, so therefore I'm not working with them anymore. Okay? Well, there's a reason they're not signing the buyer broker agreement. There's things that are written in here that obligate them to certain things that they might not like. They've not just had a bad experience before with it. So in that case, then I'll just go back to the law that says we can't represent somebody unless they're established, so I'll use the specific address.
I've even done it just like, I had this one buyer that she did not want to sign it. So I said, we'll sign it for a month, and if everything works out good, then we'll sign another one for 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ended up what happened, so I'm just working with her.
Yeah, it's a lot less on the buyer broker one, it's a lot less important on the dates as the listing side. The listing side, you're spending a lot of time, you're getting it up, you're getting the marketing going. On the buying side of it, you know, if you're doing a month and then you're doing a month, at least you're establishing a relationship. You could get, what you were saying before, somebody else come in and help them write an offer. You could get, you know, taken advantage of that way, but you just need to be aware of that. You go in there. Daryl.
Jason, if you go under contract and this date expires, it'll survive closing.
Yeah.
Done.
Mhm.
Is that
Yes.
you don't need to rewrite?
Whichever.
That's what I'm.
Whichever occurs.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, and that's. It also says right here on the bottom, it says buyer agrees not to enter into any other buyer broker agreement with another real estate agent or brokerage. So this is what protects you so that they don't go in and write that to somebody else. That make sense? So time frames. Establish that up front. Okay, number 2, brokerage fees. Okay, so let's read this one through all the way. Tony, you ever read that for us?
Sure. Number 2, brokerage fee. If during the initial term or any extension of the initial term, the buyer or any other person acting in the buyer's behalf acquires an interest in any real property as referenced in section 1 above, the buyer agrees to pay the company brokerage fee in the amount of 3% of the acquisition price plus a $295 administration fee. If the property acquired by the buyer is listed with the brokerage, the buyer agent commission, or BAC, paid to the company by the listing brokerage shall satisfy the buyer's obligation for the brokerage fee shown above, provided that the BAC is not less than the amount shown. It's not less than the amount listed with the brokerage. In the absence of a commission agreement with the owner of the selected property, the brokerage fee shown above shall be paid by the buyer, unless otherwise agreed to in writing by the buyer and the company. The brokerage fee shown above shall be due and payable on A, if a purchase, the date of recording of the closing documents, B, if a lease, the effective date of the lease, or C, if an option, the date the option agreement is signed. The transaction is prevented by default of buyer, compensation shall be immediately payable to the company.
Okay, perfect. So let's dissect this a little bit. In the first section it says, the buyer agrees to pay the company brokerage fee in the amount of 3% of the acquisition plus $295 administrative fee. Okay, can we charge more than 3%?
Yes.
Okay, can we charge less than that?
Yes.
Do we want to?
No.
Okay. 3% of the acquisition of the purchase. Does this mean that when we are putting in an offer for a property and on the listing it has 2.5%? What does that mean to the buyer that you're currently working with?
They owe you 0.5%.
They owe you 0.5%. Their obligation is not released because the seller is only paying less. Does that make sense? So a lot of times I'll get agents that come in and be upset that, well, we're not getting the full commission from the seller and they're just letting it go. The reality is they still could technically go with the buyer. The buyer's agreed to that. So it's just something you want to make sure you have that conversation with. That's a conversation I always have with my buyers prior to going out when I'm discussing this, where if by chance you happen to find a home, like a for sale by owner or a home on Homey, that they are not offering to pay a commission, you need to let me talk to them first so that I can get them to negotiate that in there. And that's the conversation I have. That's how we can legitimately say our services are free if somebody else is paying for them. Make sense? Do you have a question?
You answered my question. I was just gonna ask how you went about approaching that conversation. You just answered that, so.
Perfect. Yeah.
So we looked at a house that was listed on the MLS and the agent put it as 2.5 PAC. And so how would you handle that? Do you
So with my client or with
both?
with both?
Yeah.
I first don't put this on my client yet. Like they're obligated to do the 3%, but it also makes you look like not the nice guy.
Yeah.
But so my first approach is with the seller. The first approach would be either writing it into the contract, not the actual agreement as far as my commission, but these are obligations of the buyer. This is where you can say in the contract, closing costs to include and obligations of the buyer. This is an obligation of the buyer. So you can actually get paid out of closing costs that's coming to the buyer as long as it's stated that way. You don't want to state in your purchase contract that the commission to be paid, because commission is not negotiable in a purchase contract because it's not between us, but the buyer's closing costs are. And this is considered a buyer's closing cost. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I would need a little more detail if I were actually doing it.
Doing it? Okay, so you're talking about actually what to say to the seller,
Yeah.
or
Or just, yeah.
so my first approach, I'll always call the agent up and I'll see what their personality is, because sometimes they're just, really easygoing and I can joke with them. If I can joke with them, I usually can get them to change their commission. But sometimes you'll get somebody who's not, that's the way it is. And if that's the case, I'll say, well, what's the deal? You got 2.5%. Are you going to pay me a full commission, or am I going to have my buyers pay for it so that it brings our offer in lower to you guys? What would you like? It's harder to negotiate that when they have 7 offers you're competing against. So you just have to keep that in mind. When the market shifts and you're not competing as a high level, buyers will have more power. We'll have more power to go into these sellers and say, look, think of it this way. Most sellers don't know what they're offering the reciprocating agent. They think they're getting half. They think they're getting the 3%. But if a selling or a listing agent takes a 5% commission, do you think they're taking a 2% and they're giving a 3% to the buyer's agent? Most likely not. Okay? They're usually either a 2.5, or I've even seen it where it's flopped, where they're taking the 3 and they're giving the 2 to the buying agent. Most sellers don't know that. Okay? So if we put that in to a contract and say this is obligation to pay this, that will open up a dialogue with the seller and their listing agent that will be a very uncomfortable conversation with the listing agent. So I always have that conversation first with the agent and just say, what would you like me to do? How would you like me to approach it? I don't want my buyers having to come in with any money, and we need to make sure this obligation is taken care of. How would you like me to approach it? Then they'll give me their solution, and I may or may not like it. If I like it, then I'll be like, okay, great. And there's a lot of agents that will be like, well, we can take care of the 0.5%, and they'll cut their commission just like that. Then problem solved. I send over escrow instructions that says you will pay me full 3%. Does that make sense? Okay, Eric?
So how would you future pace that as part of the presentation? Like, what would you say to the buyer? So that
Then if it has that,
yeah, so that if you're doing the 3%, like on there, so they're aware, so that when you're having that conversation, it's not new to them. How do you get what I'm asking?
yeah. So when I go through this, I like all of my buyer broker. So you see a lot of color on this one, just because I wanted to bring up some points. But the ones I give to my buyers, I highlight certain areas that I want them to specifically read, because one thing I want to make sure of is there's some language in here that if they come back and say, well, I didn't read that, or we didn't explain that to very clearly, I want to make sure that for me, I have them highlighted, and I'll show you some of those areas where I just kind of highlight. And this, the one on this section, the one that I like to do is the right after, if the property acquired shall satisfy the, or see, the BAC, this section here, it says if the property acquired by the buyer in the listing with the brokerage, the buyer agency commission paid to the company who listed brokerage shall satisfy the buyer's obligation for buyer's fees shown above. And I highlight that sentence right there. Okay, so when I'm having that conversation with a buyer, I can look at this commission, I can say, okay, so we charge a 3% acquisition fee plus a $295 administrative fee, and then I'll read that section to them. And I'll say, this is how it makes it free for you. This is where the obligation to be sold is on the seller. They're going to pay me to do this. But here's the caution, and this is what I'll tell them. I say, here's the caution. If by chance you decide that you're going to go to a house that's not represented by another agent, you need to let me talk to them first. If you don't talk, if you don't let me talk to them first, there's a chance that you're going to have to pay that. And 90% of the time they're going to say, I'll let you talk to them first. And that's what I want. Because I can talk to a for sale by owner. If I talk to them first, the chance of them paying me a commission is dramatically higher than if my client talks to them first and then I come in. Because they already have that connection.
What would you say?
To who?
The owners.
To the owners? So before I would show them the house, I would ask them, I've got a buyer who's very interested in your home, love to show them your property. When I show them other properties, the seller's willing to pay me a 3% commission. Are you willing to do that? And if they say, no, I'm not willing to do that, they'll say, sorry, I won't be able to take my buyer to your house. And then they usually back up and they say, well, why not? Why won't you show the house? So, well, I've got to talk to my client to see if it's worth paying 3% more for your house than another house.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So then I'll just go back to my buyer and say, look, they're not willing to do it, so we're able to go look at the home, but this home will actually cost you more money if you decide to go with the for sale by owner route. And that's where I leave it. And most of the time, most for sale by owners, they're trying to save the 3% on the listing side. They're willing to negotiate on there. So you just have to judge it by that. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. $295 administrative fee. I know Russ talked about that in the listing agreement. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I was gonna list a client, this is on the other side of it. And she said she threw a huge stink around it, that she's never had to pay any of that. She's sold 1 million homes and blah blah blah. And so Alan ended up taking care of it, but I don't know what he said.
He took care of it like he paid for it, or he took care of it like he solved the problem?
He solved it, but I don't know what he said to her, because I said that's what our company charges for, it's just our fee, the flat fee that we charge. So how would you explain that so it kind of goes over?
Yeah, that's a great question. So before I answer that, I want to ask you one quick question though. When you're taking a buyer out, who pays for the inspection? Do you do it or do they do it?
Buyer.
Okay. Do they give you a stink about why they have to pay for the inspection?
No.
No. Okay. What about the appraisal?
Buyer.
The buyer pays it. Do they ever say, well, why aren't you paying for the appraisal? Okay. That $295 fee really comes down to how you're presenting it. What is it? What is it for? And why is it their obligation to pay for it? Okay. If we come in and just say, well, it's a 3% fee and then $295 administrative fee, and they say, what's the one question they ask? Well, what's the $295 going for? And then if you just say, well, it's to market the property and just pay my company, then their question's going to be, well, what's the 3% for, right? So we might have a better answer to what that is going to do. How is that helping them? You can spin it in any direction you want. Reality was why do we charge that fee to you guys? What is it? Because we're mean. Because we're mean.
Because you're paying us too much money.
Because we're paying you too much money. That's the only way the brokerage is really making money in the transaction. So if we take that away, we're fine with taking it away. We'll just change your guys' splits. Is the reality. So would you rather do the $295 fee? But here's the thing. Do you always have to have your client pay for that? No, you can pay for it, right? It's a decision you have to make. It's a business decision that you're making for yourself. Okay, you're going to have to pay those fees. So if you're making a $10,000 commission and they're having to think about the $295, I'd rather drop the $295 than have them pay me 5% commission.
What's your favorite way of explaining it?
My favorite way of explaining it is our company charges $295. That $295 fee allows us to use the best technology and systems to help you get your property marketed. Would you like to use those?
And we're doing this from the buyer's side.
This is the buyer side. Yeah. For the buyer side, I say, so for me, I'm a little bit, this is just my own standard for my buyers because I want to make sure, one, I have an established relationship with them. And so if I end up paying for some of that, I'm okay with it. But this is my script that I use with my buyers when I'm explaining it. And a lot of times it works out really good. So when I get to the transaction fee, so on the listing side, I like to charge $495. On the buyer side, I charge $295. And I say, now our company charges $295 fee as shown here next to the commission. But what I'm going to do for you as your agent is ask the seller to pay your fee on your behalf. So when we write up an offer, I'll call the lender, ask them how much we need for closing costs. If the lender tells us the closing costs are $5,000, I'm going to ask the seller to pay $5,500 to cover that. And then this is what I do, and you don't have to do this one, but so if I can't get the seller to pay the $500 towards your closing costs, I won't charge you the fee. So I turn it on to the seller for my buyers. For the seller, they all have to pay for it. I always make them because one, I've got the photos going out there for them. I've got a sign going out there for it, and I look at those services as an inspection, as an appraisal. Those are just costs of doing business. So these are fees that you, however way you want to spin it, you can just tell them, look, this is for the photos that you have out there. I've got an agent that's asking right now, they paid for the photos to go out there, which you guys you're not paying for them, but that's what the administrative fee is going towards too. It's a $70 service that you're putting on all of your listings. So there's an agent that asked me yesterday, they already did it and the seller didn't clean up the house. And now the seller wants them to go back and take pictures again. And they said, well, can we send them out again or what do I do? And I said, well, you just tell them it's a $70 fee to get them to go back out there. That's a business decision that you guys got to make. What are you going to charge? What are your standards for business? For me, I like to just tell them that, look, this is non-negotiable as a seller. And on the buying side, I think that I can get it from the seller anyway. And so for me, it's not a real big deal to just say, I'm going to ask the seller to pay for this. If by chance I can't get them to pay the extra money, then I'll pay it for you.
So, and then do they pay that $295 or whatever at closing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's just
Yeah, it'll be part of their closing costs. Now the big key to that is if you are charging a $295 fee and you decide not to use Citywide, Citywide knows that fee is on there. You've got to make sure you disclose that. It's got to be on the final disclosure that you're getting that, or you're not going to be able to slide that in there. The worst thing is you're sitting at closing table. We've had the disclosure 3 days ago so that we can actually close today. And then you just happen to glance through your thing and say, oh, the $295 or $495 fee is not on there. Let's put it on there. That will require a redisclose.
Do you see a lot of agents having to pay that VAC fee?
The VAC fee? No.
Having to cover it for the buyers?
No. You're talking about the admin fee?
Yeah, because you said that if the buyers are having a problem with the fee, that you would cover it for them.
Yeah, well, that's
Rather than
me.
losing
That's my method. I know a lot of agents that no matter what, that's theirs. That's their fee. They're bringing it in there, and there's a couple agents that will charge. I know there's an agent that charges $900 fee. There's $695. I've seen $495, $199, $1595. You have to look at it and you say, okay, what is the cost of my business? Okay, that's why I look right here and say, okay, 3%. Do we really want 3%? Well, what are they buying? What is it worth for you on that? What is your time worth? So we get in this habit, especially on the listing side, that we're 6% and the 3%. That's just these numbers that we keep throwing out there. But if let's say you're selling a mobile home, okay, a mobile home, $30,000. Is 3% going to cover your costs to do that deal for the next 6 months? No, it's going to cost you money to do that. So as nice as you want to be, you got to look and say, well, what is it? So if I ever take a mobile home listing or I'm working with a buyer on that, mine's a 10% fee based on that. So if $30,000, I'm getting $3,000. That makes it set where I can do that job for them and make sense to me to do it. So don't just put things in there because, oh, that's what everybody teaches me. Look at what your situation is and figure out what you need. If they're going to need more help and you're going to need to assist them more, say that you're going to be over there cleaning up or painting. I know agents that have gone over and painted houses before. Well, you're not going to change your BAC because that's established by the seller. You can change it here, but the best way to do it would be on the admin fee. Change your admin fee. Just make sure it's disclosed. Make sense? Okay. If the BAC is less than the amount shown above, buyer will pay the difference at closing. So that's when you get a 2.5% on the listing side. You want to make sure that they have that. This bottom part I think is really important when you look at unless otherwise agreed in writing by the buyer and the company, the brokerage fees shall be due and payable on. So there's 3 ways here. One is when the purchase of the property, when you're buying a property. We're usually seeing that. That one's easy. We already know we get paid after it closes. But B and C are ones where I see a lot of agents come in and they do these transactions and then they don't get paid on it and nothing's set. First one, if it's leased and the effective dates of the lease. So if the seller says, I'm not going to sell it anymore, I'm going to lease it, and they lease it during that period, there's an obligation there. So just make sure you're aware of that. Let's say you put a buyer in an option to purchase a property, so have does everyone know what an option is to purchase? Okay, you put some money down and then they can purchase it at a later date. At that price. Okay, a lot of agents think that they get paid in a year when they close on the property. What does this say? When it's signed. Okay, so for me, whenever I'm doing an option, I tell the buyer they need to bring enough down payment. You know, their option money needs to be at least compensating my commission so that I get paid for it. Okay?
What's that scenario where you have an option happen?
What's the scenario that? So a lot of times it's when somebody typically doesn't quite qualify for a loan. They're working through it. They're self-employed, make really good money, but they don't have 2 years of tax data so they can move forward. So then they're going into a purchase property where they can decide what the value is, pay it until a certain date, and then buy it for that value.
And then you still go through the title, you go through all the vending.
Yeah, so as soon as you get done, when you're ready to exercise the option, and you're saying, okay, now I'm going to move forward with it, then you're going to go through just like a normal purchase contract. Okay, so let's say you do it for a year. Your option money you put down at the front, which pays my commission, that stays at the front, and then you pay like you're renting to the owner, and then at the end you have an option to either exercise it or not. You can either buy it or not buy it. If you don't buy it, the seller keeps your option money. That's why I want to get paid up front, because if I don't, they decide not to close on the transaction, I end up not getting paid. But the seller still makes the money on it. So I let them know up front that I'm going to be paid from this fee. Then they go through there. If they decide to go forward with it, then they'll get the lender involved and they'll close just like a normal transaction. Yep.
As a lender, I'd say make sure that you have a bullet point of what they need and to do and what not to do over that 12-month period. The reason why they're doing leaseback is obviously they don't qualify. And sometimes it's not writing, and 6 months go by, you forget specifically, so you have it written out what their goals are, what they need to do, and keep in contact with the lender along the way. So that when a year comes by, the value's gone way up, and now they need 1 more month, that seller's not gonna extend it, and you're out of the deal, so.
Yep.
Make sure you keep your lender involved throughout the whole process.
Yep, keep them involved, and don't just walk away from it. And then the last part of that, if the transaction is prevented by, is prevented by default of the buyer, the compensation shall be immediately paid to the company. So that's another thing you want to just make sure your buyers are understanding. Because a lot of times they're like, oh, no big deal, I'll walk away from it. It's only $500 or $1,000 earnest money, it's not a big deal. There's more repercussions that can happen. You can go after them for their commission, the seller can go after them for damages. So just be aware that that is there. Okay, so number 3, protection period. We won't dwell on this one very long, but what does the protection period do?
So if your contract ends, you have, it's like I do like a month long, so you have a month long, and if they do, so say you showed them a ton of homes during 6 months, then all of a sudden they go back to one of the homes you showed, and they write out an offer on it, then you still are their agent.
Okay, yeah, so what if,
It expires, that's what you're saying.
yeah, this is protection period for you as a buyer's agent. So if I showed the property and then they go out and they buy it the next month after our contract ends, I'm still protected on that. Okay, so you can put it for as long as you want. A month is usually what I do as well. Story about that. So I was working with a buyer and we went to this townhome. Our contract, I had a good contract in place. And we went and looked at the property, they liked the property, we would have put an offer in on the property, couldn't come to terms with it, and it was rejected and we backed out. We were going to look for another property. The next day I get a call from my buyer and he says, hey, just wanted to let you know that the seller called me last night and we went to dinner. And the seller told him that if they dropped their agent, they would sell them the property at the price that they were asking so that they could make this deal work.
And he told you about that?
Oh, my clients were great. They were real good about it. But you got to be careful with that because if they don't like you, these were friends of mine, so they're like, hey, we figured out we'll go to dinner. It's not a big deal. They're paying for it anyway. And they really liked the house, so they wanted to kind of get the insider scoop. So they didn't tell me until after they got back from dinner the next day, and they're like, hey, just so you know, because what happened was they had started to negotiate some terms, and they said, well, we can do this, and then they told me about the dropping their agent, and I thought, well, that's interesting, because if I would have known that, then they would have come back to me and said, this isn't working out, we decided not to buy, we want you to let us out of your contract, and if I would have let them out of the contract, just not thinking of it, and then they went back and bought the property, this protection period would have covered me.
But when a new buyer or an agent representing a new builder does it, because they'll kick you out of a deal like that.
The-
if they
yeah,
have a
new
choice,
constructions.
a new builder.
Yeah, new constructions, they can kick you out because they're the bigger fish in the pond, but you still have the right to be representative. They have their system where if you're not with them when you show up, then you're not getting paid. It's their own stipulation through it. They're also making your client sign a contract that's different than the real estate purchase contract. It's their own contract, which modifies it.
And most of the times, they're not members of the board either, so
Yep.
they can say all kinds of unethical things, right?
Yeah, you have to be very aware of that. There's a lot of agents that are not part of the board. If they're not part of the board, then they do certain things that are unethical, but there's nothing we can do about it. So in this case, I was glad they told me. I actually called the other agents and confronted them on it, and they ended up going under contract at the price that we wanted, and I got paid for it. Okay, but I bring that up because if they wouldn't have been a close friend of mine, the chances of them telling me that they went to dinner with the client would probably have not happened, and then I would have had a call. Because we get those a lot as brokers here, calls from buyers that say, I don't want to work with my agent anymore because my agent did this, 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 and this. Well, our policy here in the brokerage is we listen to them, we understand what they're saying, and then we always say the same thing. Let me talk with the agent, I want to get their story as well before we make any decisions here. Then I'll call you guys up and I'll get a totally different story. You know, and then we try to piece it together to see whether or not the person's getting out of the contract to do something like this, where they're wanting to get out of it, or if they're legitimately frustrated.
So the protection period, I'd say if you're in a fast moving buyer's market like this, probably a month is good. If you're in a slower market, probably should be a little bit longer. So it should be variable according to what you think.
Well, so here's the thing though. The longer you have this, let's say I put this out 6 months for a protection period. Okay, this is only protecting you for the homes that you've shown them.
Right.
So if you're looking at it and you're saying, we looked at 5 homes together and there's none of them they're going to buy and none of them are nice, then the protection period doesn't protect you, because they can go out and sign another buyer broker agreement and go look at another home and you're not. This is only properties you've shown.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so for me, I don't really care to have it very long. I don't want to keep them stuck to me. I just want to make sure that they have to wait a month before they try to
So
take
they
advantage
go back
of
to
me.
that same property.
Yeah, if they go back to the same property.
Can we go back to that new construction thing?
Uh-huh.
What do we need to do? Like, what do we need to know better about that situation? Because
So for me, every time I meet with a buyer, I require them to come into the office. That's my requirement. Now, for me, my standard is I'll show you one property, like I'll meet you at the property and I'll show you one of those. If you call me up and you say, come show me a property. I know some agents won't do that. That's their policy, is to get it signed all right away. I'll meet them at one property and then say, we've got to meet at the office. I'll always meet them in the office. If they don't meet me in the office, I won't work with them. And I've had clients that say, well, I'll work with somebody else. I don't have time to go meet in your office. If you don't have time to meet me for 30 minutes, I don't have time for you. Is my philosophy. So I have them come into the office. Then I talk to them specifically about new construction. New construction is the same as for sale by owners, in my mind, where my conversation is with the buyer. If you're going to go look at new construction, you've got to let me know. Most builders, you can register online, and you can register just by calling the agent, and you don't physically have to be there. Like Ivory, you can call Ivory, and I think Richmond America, at Homes, you can call them up, they'll register you on there, and then I tell my client, any Ivory homes you want to go look at, go ahead, you're already registered. And if I know that buyer is thinking about new construction, and I'll have that conversation, make sure you have that conversation, because they could be looking at old dumpy homes and end up buying a brand new home. So have that conversation. But I'll have the conversation that says I need to make sure that we register you before you go in there. And I'll put a little bit of scare tactic in it and says, look, if you go into new construction and you don't have me there and you decide to buy it, you cannot have representation from your side. You will have representation from the builder side. Do you think they have your interest in mind, or do you think they have their interest in mind? They have their interest in mind. Great. So just have me call them first.
I didn't realize any of that.
Oh yeah,
So you just
they
treat
say,
them
I'll
like
give you the
forced
3-car garage for if you don't have an agent. They're like, ooh,
Yeah.
I can dump my agent, get a 3-car garage.
Yeah, and I heard
What do you think they're gonna do?
I heard you'll take advantage. You'll take advantage of your own family if it's over $1,100. So, a 3-car garage, you're just another person they forgot about. Okay, so moving on. Number 4, buyer representative disclosures. Okay, this is one that I want you to make sure you know. This will help us out. Down a couple paragraphs. The buyer will in all communication with real estate agent, notify the agent in advance that the buyer has entered an exclusive buyer broker agreement. Okay, so when you have this discussion with them, you want to make sure that they say, this is where you're asking them, have they signed another buyer broker agreement? Because if they can't sign 2 of them. B, furnish the buyer's agent with relevant personal and financial information so that the buyer's ability to acquire property. So this is where we find out whether or not they're qualified. C, exercise care and diligence in evaluating the physical and legal conditions of the property selected by the buyer. That's their responsibility to look at and evaluate the physical conditions of properties. D, hold harmless the company and the buyer's agent against any claims as a result of injury incurred while inspecting any property. Okay, so when you're showing a home, you're taking on the responsibility of that, showing that home. So you want to make sure that when you go in there, you're locking the doors, you're unlocking the doors. You got to be really careful. You see this a lot where you take your key out and another agent shows up, and then you just hand them the key and then you leave. Unless you know that other agent, you're taking on the responsibility of whatever that agent does in that home. As a buyer's agent, you are responsible for what happens in that home during the time that you're there. So if that other agent doesn't register on the key box, and then they do something to the home while you're gone, and your name is the only one on the key box, you're liable for it. So just be really careful when another agent shows up and says, well, just hand me the key. You just want to just know that that's a tricky way to do it. Sometimes I'll just say, I can hand you the key, just register your key on the key box, so they can just go and register on the key box. Sometimes they'll look at you like you're a jerk. Why don't you just hand me the key? It's busier that way, but it also depends on how you feel about the person. I mean, if you look at them and you say, well, I trust them, you're trusting them with whatever they do. So
it's best just to lock the house, put it in the key box, and let them go through the process yourself.
I don't necessarily lock the house back up, because
You can do it separately.
you can do that usually if they're there, but I just want them to register their phone number on the key box. That's all I care about. I can hand them the key. I just want them to physically go over and unlock the box, because that registers their name, and that relieves me, because I can say, look, I was there, they were there, it was fine when I left. So just be careful with that. Let's see. E, upon signing the exclusive buyer agreement, personally review and sign the this is where the buyer due diligence checklist, and we'll go through that real quick as well. But this is saying that they will sign that form. And when we get to that form, my only caution is have them sign that before your inspection deadline. Otherwise, it's a real uncomfortable document to have signed after they can't do anything about it. And I'll show you that one. We'll go through that one. And then F, disclose to the buyer's agent all properties in which the buyer, or as of the date of this exclusive buyer broker agreement, is either negotiating to acquire or has a present interest in acquire. We see this a lot with investors, where they're trying to do multiple properties, they're using multiple agents to do different things, and you don't know what they're doing over here, and in their mind, they can't buy 2 properties, they can only buy 1. You've got to figure out what they're doing. This is telling them and obligating them that they need to disclose that to you. Make sense? Okay, agency relationships. Duty of the buyer's agent. So there's fiduciary duties, and I just want to bring those up at the very bottom of that paragraph. Loyalty, obedience, full disclosure, confidentiality, reasonable care, and any other duties required by the law. Okay, those are what you're saying that you're willing to do. So remember, when we talked at the very start, you don't want to obligate somebody for a whole year on this contract if you're not willing to do those things for a full year. See how long you want to work with them as well. A lot of times as agents we think that this is a contract that they're signing, but at the very end you'll see there's a signature that you're actually on this signature too. You're accepting it, authorized agent. So you're basically on the contract too. This is a contract that you're agreeing to. Duties of limited agent. We're gonna kind of skip through that because we're gonna actually talk about that in a second on the main form. But there's 3 things that can't happen because of being a limited agent. Undivided loyalty can't happen. Confidentiality can't happen, and disclosure can't happen. So those are the 3 that get eliminated if you decide to go into a limited agency agreement. That's another one that if you present it well to your buyers, they usually won't have a problem with it. But we can freak them all out. Let's see. So, and then on the last paragraph of number 5, it says, the buyer's agent and broker, as applicable, may only act as a limited agent based upon a separate limited agent consent agreement signed by the seller and the buyer. So Just because they signed this form that says there's a chance you can have limited agency, there's another form that we're gonna go through, and you have to have that one. That one's gonna protect you the most in this transaction. Professional advice, number 6. Okay, this is how we can get ourselves, I think this paragraph right here is one of them that will get us in trouble the fastest. And we'll go through some scenarios on that, but I want you, I'm gonna read through most of this one. The company and the buyer's agent are trained in marketing of real estate. Okay, neither the company nor the buyer's agent are trained or licensed to provide the buyer with professional advice regarding the physical condition of any property or regarding legal or tax matters. The buyer is advised, and I highlight this section right here for my buyers to read. The buyer is advised not to rely on the company or any agents of the company for a determination regarding the physical or legal condition of the property, including but not limited to past or present compliance with zoning, building code requirements, the condition of any appliances, the condition of heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical features and equipment, sewer problems, moisture or other problems in the roof or foundation, the ability, the location of the utilities, the location of the property line, the exact square footage or acreage of the property. And on the very last line of that, it says if the buyer fails to do so, the buyer is acting contrary to the advice of the company. Okay, so this is a really important paragraph to let them know that they have the right to go and talk to a professional about these items. Now here's how you can get in trouble with this. How many people attend their inspections? Okay, just a couple of you. Okay, you guys attend your inspections. When you go to the inspection, does your client usually know the inspector, or do they know? They usually don't, right? Unless it's a family friend or somebody like that. But they usually don't, because it's usually somebody that we've hired and helped them to come in there. So who are they most comfortable with? The agent. Okay, when somebody has a question about a property, they're going to go to the person they're most comfortable with. If you are the only one at the inspection with them and the inspector, who do you think they're going to ask the questions to? The agent. Okay, do we see a problem that this is creating?
Oh, because now you're setting yourself up.
You're setting yourself up as a professional in the field you're not. Yeah. Okay, so we had a lawsuit that just got settled in California. One of the agents in California went into a property. They were doing their inspection, and so they came out of the property, and there was a smell outside. And the client says, "What's that smell?" And the agent said, "Well, it smells like the sea," because it was the ocean, just down there close. It smells like the ocean. And that was all he said, and then they left. Well, they get moved into the house. A month into the house, they find out that the home is on a septic tank, and the septic tank had ruptured and was filling up underneath the house, and that's the smell that was coming out. They ended up suing the agent because the agent told them it was a sea, and it cost that agent $120,000 to get it fixed. Okay? All he said was, it smells like the sea.
Doesn't this protect him though?
Not if you act contrary to it. That's why I'm saying on this, you need to be really careful. Okay, for me, I don't like to go into inspections. That's something that my buyers choose to do on their own. I choose not to go there, specifically for this reason. The other reason is, have you ever had a buyer ask you for a tape measure to measure a fridge? If you supply them with a tape measure and they measure their fridge and it's wrong, you are acting contrary to what this is saying.
Wait, so, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, he said it smells like the sea. I mean, that's his opinion. And based on this, if they really are worried about that, they would ask a professional about it.
Right.
So what they did, that should have been their due diligence to check out the smell if they smell it.
It is, but if we act outside of our realm, what is our realm right here?
Marketing.
The company and buyer agent are trained in marketing of real estate. That's it. As soon as we step beyond that, and that's the challenge with this paragraph and this part of our industry. If we step outside of that bounds and we say something like as simple as on taxes. Oh yeah, $250 for an individual, you get your equity and 500 for a family. Something simple, right? Well, if you're not a tax advisor and you give them that information, you're acting outside of that. So all I'm saying is be cautious with it. Can I give them a tape measure? Sure. Would I measure it for them? No. I would not measure it for them.
Same subject, different tangent. How do you handle getting sellers prepared to leave the house so they don't create objections for your deal?
During the
inspection.
Yeah, so there's nothing in the contract that says the seller has to leave the house.
Right.
That is a conversation I have with the seller's agent, and as long as the seller's agent is a good agent and knows that it's in their best interest to get the seller out, that's usually where it happens.
But so being a seller agent, what do I tell this?
What, seller?
Yeah.
When you tell the seller, then I'll just tell them, look, the buyer is going to be doing an inspection. The inspector would like to come in. It's going to take 3 to 4 hours to do. They're going to need some time in the home. They want to look at the home. They're going to inspect the home. It's best if you're not here so that they can get their opinions from the inspector and not from you. It's going to protect you because the inspector will give them the information, not you. If you're there and you give them the information, the seller is acting as a professional.
Okay.
And a lot of times when we're talking about these things, there's a time to freak them out and a time to make them calm. When I want them to do something that they might not want to do, that's when I go into the freak out mode. Because nobody wants to have a problem. Nobody wants a lawsuit. It's the same thing that you guys did when I said, do you go to inspections or do you bring out a tape measure? You could see that, I've done that before, or I've said some things before. I don't like to go. I used to go to my inspections all the time, and I'm not saying that you guys can choose whether you go to them. Some people like to go to them because it builds rapport with your client. For me, I set it up at the very start. You will be doing an inspection, and this is what you will be doing, and you will meet the inspector there. Now it's a two-edged sword, because when I don't go to the inspection, my inspector can freak out my clients, because their job is to tell them everything wrong with the house. So that's something I know that I have to defend when my client calls back and says, the home's falling apart, and then we have to look at it and see what's really falling apart. But I don't want to be in a position where they say, well, what do you think? Which they're going to do. They're going to always ask me what I think, because they trust me, they've been with me, and they want my opinion. We ask opinions. Make sense?
So Jason, let's say your client comes back and says, there's black mold. The inspector said there's black mold.
Mm-hmm.
So
if they, well, to me, black mold's not good.
Right.
So, but then
another inspection.
Yeah, then it would be another inspection. So, and we'll look through what those options are here in a second, because there's lots of different inspections. I always tell my clients, let's start with a basic inspection, and then if that inspection warrants deeper inspections on things, or you're more concerned with it, we'll hire whatever you want to come out. But remember, that's their fee. They're paying for it. Yeah.
I think what's worked for me with my buyers is I just define the roles at the beginning. And I let them know I'm a real estate agent, I'll look at homes for you, we'll do negotiations, but I'm not an inspector.
Yeah.
So if you have any concerns, you ask an inspector, and I think that's how
And if you
it's all
set the ground rules up front, and that's why I like to meet with all of my buyers before I go out, because when I meet with my buyers, one, I want to know what their criteria is, so I'm not driving all over the state for them. But number two is just to define my role and what I'm supposed to do, because a lot of times people are unaware of what a real estate agent really does.
Now, how come you have them always meet here and you don't go to their home to be like when you first set up being the buyer?
Buyer's agent. So for me, and this works for me, it's because I control my environment here. They control their environment in their home. If we could convince sellers to come into the office, you'd have a better chance of getting them to do what you wanted to do. It's harder because they want you to look at the home, and that's usually where you go and inspect it. But for the buyers, you go onto their turf, they're not as focused as if they come into your office. So for me, it's just a matter of you're going to spend 30 minutes with me in the office. I have a booklet that I call it my game plan for buyers that I print off. It's got all of this information plus just a couple questions, and I give it to them and do my buyer presentation. And I go through this I don't go through it as much detail because I highlight certain things, but when it comes to this professional advice, this big section in the middle that I got highlighted, I highlight that on their section so that they can say, yes, I usually kind of joke about it. It says, this is the paragraph that tells you that I don't know a whole lot. And that's how I usually preface it. And then they do the same thing, they laugh about it, and then they say, look, if you have questions about this, I really want you to ask the one that's in charge. Now, I can assist you in pointing you in the right direction of who can answer that question, because I know inspectors, I know tax people, and I can give them recommendations that says go talk to them, but the minute I step into, let me answer that question for you, that's where liability comes in.
Doesn't the inspector also do that by covering himself in the inspection report? He will say, possible black mold or something, please have it checked by a professional in that field with electrical or whatever.
Yeah, and that's how they do that. So that's their protection. So when I'm talking about this paragraph, or when we're coming up to our inspection, that's how I lead into the inspection. That's how I help out with the fact that they could scare them out of the way. I'll say, look, the inspector has a job to tell you everything that's wrong with them. They're going to try to protect themselves too. So if there's a little crack in the light switch, that's going to be on your inspection report. You were expected, you'll see a lot of things on your report. Don't freak out about it. What you want to make sure is look and see what's a concern to you. And I always say, I always am concerned with safety hazards and things that are going to cost me a lot of money. And then I let them go take care of it. Okay? Number 7, disputes. This is going to tell them that they shall first be submitted to mediation through a mediation provider. So this is so we can keep the cost down if there's a problem. We want them to go to mediation first and not just straight to a lawsuit. Number 8, attorney fees and governing laws. This is basically what it states, that if you ever have a problem in a transaction, that whoever is the prevailing party, the other one actually pays for their attorney fees and services. So number 9, buyer authorizations. This is important because there's some laws that the state of Utah have in place that this helps us out as agents. The first one here is disclose after closing each MLS in which the company participates the final terms of the sale. So this helps us out on the MLS so that we can actually tell them what everything's sold for. Remember, we're a non-disclosed state, so that's why Zillow is not 100% correct in Utah, because we don't disclose what we have to sell. Where other states are disclosure states, so they can get all the information. So that site is correct in, like California, it's correct in California. So you get a buyer that comes from there that's looking at values on Zillow here. They're not, may or may not be correct here. And it's just because it's a non-disclosed state, they can't get that information. B, communicate with the buyer for the purposes of listing real estate related goods and services during and after the term of the exclusive buyer-broker agreement. Okay, so we have the do not call list requirements here in the state of Utah. Those requirements state that if even after you have a relationship with them, you cannot call them after 6 months to a year has passed. Okay, or you could be in violation of the do not call list. This is them giving you permission that you can keep talking to them about real estate. So you can keep in contact with your past clients even after the 6 months to a year. Okay? Let's see. I think that's the only thing on that. Any questions on authorizations? The last part about that is they authorize us to put in an interest-bearing account, which we don't do here, but we could if we wanted to. Attachments. If you ever have to add anything to this agreement, that's where you're going to put. You're going to check the MUX R attachments, and then you put an addendum to the buyer broker agreement.
Okay.
So
Do you find the addendum to the buyer broker, are those just something like the C21?
Yeah. Yeah, and you can just do it in an addendum on it, just whatever you want, whatever terms you put in it. Just don't write real big terms. This is protecting us. This is written for us. When you start changing things in there, then you start putting yourself liable with things. So, equal housing opportunity, the buyer and the company will comply with these laws. You gotta be really careful with this. Just let your buyer know. You can't discriminate against people when you go into their houses. Be really careful now. We're almost, every seller is recording what's going on in their house. Don't say things in the house, specifically if you go into one that's, a different ethnic group or something like that, or, where some houses have religious things that are everywhere. Just be cautious when you're in the house. Let your buyers know not to say things in the house that's related to any of those, because it is a very serious thing. I had an agent that their client was really being not going against this fair housing, and he ended up just pulling off the side of the road and said, "We're going to have to terminate the contract because I can't work with you on this." And he left the client on the side of the road and drove away. But he was he was saying things that were not appropriate, and it's your responsibility as the agent. You are representing them. So if they're going to act that way, my suggestion is just to get out of it. Okay? There's no commission that's worth dealing with a lawsuit that involves fair housing.
Say the person that you're representing says something racist or something, could I be liable for something that they did?
If you're not saying anything about it, if you let it proceed, yeah. 12, electronic transmission counterparts. Addendums may be executed in counterparts. So basically, if I have a buyer-broker agreement signed over here and I have another buyer-broker agreement signed over here with a spouse, those are one and the same. Okay, so we're good with that. Do you have a question? Due on sell. This is, do we know what due on sell? Anybody not know what due on sell clause is? I think we talked about it in the listing side. Okay, so we don't need to beat on that one. I think the only thing on the do not sell that we want to be aware of is as the interest rates go up, this will be more of a concern. No, because there's banks that have 3 1/4 loans on properties that you're selling, and they're changing title but not changing lenders. They're not refinancing, and all of a sudden the rates are up at 5 and 6%. That bank is going to want 5 or 6%, not 3 1/4. Okay, so you'll see a little bit more of these come due just because they can make more.
They were like assuming the loan.
Yeah, that's what that's for.
Okay.
Yeah, this is disclosure to them that if you're assuming the loan, you could very well have a problem.
But they don't really do that much anymore.
No, I mean there's seller financing all the time, so they're still doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a right way to do it. You just got to realize that a due on sell clause, most banks haven't done anything with it because they don't want to do the hassle. But a 1% or 2% increase, it's worth it to the bank to do something about it, because now all of a sudden they're making 2% more on their money. They'll do that.
I thought the due on sale clause was just protection, since there's obviously buying home.
This is not protection. This is a disclosure.
Well, for the bank though, isn't that why they do the due on? So like if they're out looking for another home, then that means that. I guess I'm just not understanding that fully.
The due on sell basically is something that's in your loan documents that says that if you do anything to the title that the bank doesn't authorize, they can call the note due immediately. Okay, so if you seller finance